Looks like everyone is here, so we're going to head and get started. At any time, you can go ahead and use the questions box feature to, comment, ask any questions, and I'll go ahead and answer them. If it's something that I know is coming up, I'll probably wait till the very end and answer some of those other questions as well. But throughout the broadcast, go ahead and just ask any questions. This webinar is designed as an introduction to the multiple Teach in Spain programs, and so hopefully during the orientation I'll be able to answer most of those questions, but as I mentioned before, you can always ask some questions throughout and I'll answer them at the end as well. First, I'd like to take a minute to explain who I am and what CIEE is. CIEE stands for Council on International Educational Exchange, and our headquarters are located in Portland, Maine. CIEE is a nonprofit, non-governmental organization and one of the oldest and most prominent cultural and educational exchange organizations worldwide. We have over 70 years of experience in a wide variety of programs in the U.S. and around the world. CIEE has helped thousands of people gain the skills that they need to live and work in an interdependent and culturally diverse world. We pride ourselves on offering programs that are comprehensive, relevant, and of the highest quality. Our programs include Teach Abroad, Study Abroad, high school and gap year exchanges, work exchanges, camp exchanges, and many more. Here you can see the Teach Abroad team. We all work here in Portland, Maine, and all of us have taught and lived abroad before. We're here to be your problem solvers, advisors, and guides through your Teach Abroad experience. My name is Samantha, and I am the U.S.-based program coordinator for our Teach in Spain programs. To tell you a little bit about myself, in 2011, I studied in Granada, Spain during my undergrad for an academic year. After graduation from university, I did a little bit of traveling in South America. I went to Ecuador and Peru, the latter where I actually got my TEFL certification. And then shortly after, and most recently, I returned from 2 years of teaching English in South Korea. I returned in March of 2017, and then ever since I've been here at CIEE as the Teach in Spain coordinator. Though I am happy to answer any questions that you might have about other countries, that we have Teach Abroad and volunteer opportunities. You can see my contact information below as well, so anytime you need to get a hold of me, you can call me or send me an email. All right, so enough about me. I want to know why you guys are here. You might be listening to this webinar for many different reasons. I'd like to start by asking you to think about why you are considering teaching abroad and what you want from your Teach Abroad experience. Please, if you don't mind, type in some information about yourself into the questions box. I'd really love to share some of your thoughts aloud with the group. It's always fun to know who I'm talking to, and it's always interesting to know the different experiences and motivations that are bringing everyone here. I know some of you might be excited about the physical destination. You're going to be in Spain, the history, the people, the food. There's just so many things to do and explore. Some of you might be hoping to have a particular experience. Maybe you want to feel what it's like to teach a class or live with a host family. And finally, some of you might be hoping that at the end of your time abroad, you're going to have gained important skills, such as improving your Spanish skills. All of these reasons will serve you well throughout your life and career. I think these are all great goals and reasons to teach abroad. And some people are sharing, that they've taught undergrad students and thought this could be a helpful opportunity. Others, have lived in other Spanish-speaking countries, but not in Europe. We have a couple of participants that are using this as sort of a gap year between, their undergrad and graduate degrees. Another participant has lived abroad for, a couple different summers in different areas, but never to Spain. So I'm ready for that opportunity. Others have lived in other countries, just not Spanish-speaking ones. So this is their opportunity for that. It's really great information. It's really awesome to hear. A lot of participants are actually still in school and they're working on finishing up their grad degree. So props to you for being so proactive and following this right away. This is really great. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the different ways. There's different ways to teach abroad. You can independently find a job, you can use a recruiter hired by the foreign schools, or you can go through a program provider like CIEE. Our program is more than just a job. It's a comprehensive package designed to give you the preparation and support that you need to succeed at this experience. While we do charge a program fee to join our programs, it's We use our resources and experiences to make sure that this program is the best fit for you, and we support you the entire time that you're going to be teaching abroad. If you're unsure which program you're eligible for or what the difference between the programs are, we're always available to speak with you and help you decide on the best program for you. Our application is entirely online, but we're always happy to help you out through the application process or answer any questions that you might have. And then once you are accepted and offered a job placement, we include visa application guidance and help you prepare with a pre-departure course about Spanish culture, what to expect when you arrive, and practical information about moving abroad. We'll also put together an in-country orientation for each program where you're going to be able to meet your fellow participants and the CIEE staff in Spain. During orientation, we'll cover topics such as teaching tips, what to expect at your school, how to navigate life in Spain, among other things. And then lastly, your CIEE program fee is also going to cover travel insurance and 24/7 emergency support from our staff in Spain. When your program ends, we offer U.S.-based job verification and membership in our network of 300,000 CIEE alumni. This vast alumni network is just one way that I believe you're going to receive the CIEE difference. It's something that really sets us apart from our competitors. Let's talk about who is eligible for our Teach in Spain programs. We require that participants are native English speakers from the U.S. or Canada. This is a requirement for our partners in the Ministry of Education in Spain, and it's because we're part of the North American Language and Culture Assistant Program. We also require that participants have a bachelor's degree by the time that they depart, but it's fine to apply if you're still finishing up your diploma as long as we have that before you actually leave. There's no formal teaching experience or certificates needed for this program, though becoming TEFL certified is something that will definitely make you a stronger applicant. It's going to make you a more confident teacher. I highly recommend it, and I'll bring it up a little bit more later, tell you a little bit more about the program as well. And lastly, our programs are going to require that you speak a little bit of Spanish. It's going to depend on the program that you're interested in. Some will need very little, if not any, but most of them will need some Spanish. And I'll expand on those in the following slides. Here, you can see a list of our different programs offered in Spain with Teach Abroad. In the following slides, I will go over each of the programs and explain the differences. So we have our Teach in Spain Professional, our Volunteer, our 2- and 4-week Immersion programs, our kind of our main flagship Teach in Spain program, and our Basics program. So first I want to mention our 2 smaller programs in Spain, the Professional and Volunteer programs. The first one is our Teach in Spain Professional program, which is designed as a partly paid internship for participants interested in teaching adults in a business setting. We've collaborated with Training Express, a leading international corporate language training firm based in Madrid, to place English teachers in local corporate settings. This program has no Spanish language requirement, and it's ideal for those interested in international business or doing some networking while in Spain. This program includes orientation and 1 month of housing provided upon arrival. And the Teach in Spain Professional program has 2 start dates and durations, which is kind of nice. The first one is going to start in September, and you'll work until about the end of June. And then the second one, you can start in January and work until, it would be essentially work a full year, but you would have a month off in August, which is non-paid, because it's essentially just vacation time for Spaniards. Everyone's on vacation at that time. This program does have an age limit of 35 years old. If you do want to learn more about the program, I highly recommend that you reach out to my colleague Sagan for more information, as she is the main Teach in Spain program coordinator for that one. And you can see her contact information on the screen. The age limit of 35 meaning an age limit of 35 or younger. So kind of caps at the 35. The Teach in Spain Volunteer Program is a 3-month short-term program. This is probably one of my absolute favorite Teach Abroad programs because it truly is an immersive experience and just plunge into the Spanish culture. While you're not paid, participants are in this program do live with a local host family that provide you with breakfast and dinner each day. As a volunteer language and culture assistant, you will assist the local teachers in their classrooms for 12 hours a week, and you'll be placed at primary and secondary public schools. Participants will work 4 days a week and typically have Monday or Friday off. If you are placed in a bilingual school, you may have the opportunity to teach other subjects in English, such as art, science, physical education. The duties of the volunteers may include creating cultural presentations, taking small groups of students and helping them with their conversational English, or creating games related to the lesson. In addition to the time that you're going to be spending at school and volunteering in addition to those 12 hours, you're also going to be required or kind of asked to also spend some time with your host family in tutoring them in English. This doesn't always have to be a rigid or formal schedule. It can be worked out between you and your host family. Through this program, you're definitely going to have a lot of free time. I mean, you're only working 12 hours a week, so it's definitely going to give you a lot of time to hold some private tutoring lessons or improve on your Spanish skills. CIEE cannot help you find these opportunities, but just know that as a native English speaker, especially in a smaller rural area, you're going to be in really high demand. You can network through your school, host family, and your local community. For the Teach in Spain, the volunteer program, placements are offered in the regions of Castilla y León and Castilla-La Mancha. We offer 3 different departure dates, one in January, one in April, and one in October. Because this program is under 90 days, it's also one of the easiest ways to go to Spain because you're not going to need a visa. You're going to be arriving, on using your passports. You're going to have 90 days in the Schengen zone that you can spend there. This program does not have a Spanish language requirement, which is really great. So it's available, for all levels. There is also no age limit for the program. And I'm happy to say that the volunteer program actually has a little bit more flexibility as far as eligibility requirements go, as we do allow participants that have citizenship in the United States, Canada, along with Ireland, New Zealand, Australia, and the UK. This is also a really great program too, because while we prefer participants with a bachelor's degree, we don't, as long as you're currently in school or you're just taking a break, but you have those 2 years of university level classes complete, then you have that opportunity to go ahead and participate in the program beforehand, maybe take a little bit of a break between semesters. All right, so let's go over our academic year programs. So with each of these programs, you will be a paid language and culture assistant working in primary and secondary public schools. We offer 4 different programs with varying levels of support through orientation and Spanish language requirements. In the following slides, I'm going to review those differences for each of those programs, but right off the bat, you can see that all of our programs are available in the region of Madrid. And our Teach in Spain and our Teach in Spain Basics is available in not only Madrid, but also the region of Andalusia. So we're going to start at the beginning as far as the lowest level of Spanish requirement needed. So the first one I'm going to talk about is going to be our Teach in Spain plus 4 weeks of Immersion program. This program is going to be best for participants with little to no Spanish skills, as there's no Spanish language requirement, just a desire to learn. In this program, participants will arrive to Madrid. It's going to be typically in early August is when the arrival dates for that going to be. Participants will be met by our in-country staff at the airport and then shuttled to the orientation hotel. You're going to be provided with 4 nights of hotel accommodations where you're going to room with another participant of the same gender during orientation. Orientation is going to give you the chance to meet your fellow participants, prepare for your teaching commitment, and help you handle some of those logistical tasks of moving to a new country. We're going to help you with, how to open up a bank account, applying for your residency card, resources for apartment hunting, things like that. After orientation, you are going to meet your host family, where you're going to stay for the next 4 weeks, and while at the same time, you're going to be taking language immersion classes based on your Spanish level. You're most likely going to be placed with the same, another participant, CIEE 4-week immersion participant, while living with the host family, and your host family is going to provide you with breakfast and dinner each day. Your language classes are typically going to be 3 to 4 hours a day, either happening, usually in the morning or at night, or like evening, afternoon time, depends, but it'll usually be one of the 2, depending on your level. This program is, as I mentioned, that there is no Spanish requirement. This is also available for participants that do have an upper level, higher level of Spanish. They're still more than welcome to join this program if they want maybe a little bit of a brush up on it, because the classes are going to be based off of your level. You will take an informal exam, which will place you properly with that. So don't feel that you have to, just because you don't know, maybe you know Spanish, but you want a little bit of a refresher, you can still be eligible for this course, for this program. Our Teach in Spain plus 2 weeks of immersion program is going to be set up just as our 4-week immersion, except that you're going to live with your host family for only 2 weeks, as well as taking those Spanish language classes for the 2 weeks instead of the 4. You're going to arrive in Madrid in mid-August. It's going to be just about a day or two after, or a week or two after this 4-week immersion participants. You'll be arriving at that time. Orientation and accommodation is going to be the exact same, 4 days of orientation with the accommodation prior to going in with your host family. And with the 2-week immersion, there is a small language requirement for this program. We do require that participants have a low to intermediate level of Spanish to be eligible for this program. It's usually considered the equivalent of 1 year of university level Spanish, or 2 semesters of that. It is important to note that of these 2 Teach in Spain programs that I've mentioned, the Teach in Spain plus 4 weeks of immersion and Teach in Spain plus 2 weeks of immersion, is available in the region of Madrid only. Unfortunately, we are not offering this program in the region of Andalusia. Now, the largest of our 4 programs is our main Teach in Spain program. This program is going to require an intermediate level of Spanish to be eligible, which we consider to be the equivalent of 3 semesters of university level Spanish, so about a year and a half. Some participants maybe had taken Spanish in high school, and so they were able to test out of 1 or 2 classes in college. We're going to notice that in your transcripts that maybe you were in Spanish 202, so that must have meant that you transferred out or tested out of 101, 102. So that 1 class would still count as your 3 semesters. And similar to our immersion programs, you're going to be provided with 4 nights of hotel accommodations, where you're going to room with another participant of the same gender during orientation. However, after your 4 days of orientation, we're also going to provide you with an additional 5 nights of accommodation at the hotel. So, where the other participants would go off to live with a host family, you're going to get to stay in the hotel for an additional 5 nights, give you a little bit more time to, get adjusted, find housing, all of that. Because this is our largest program, we will most likely have 2 arrival dates. One is typically going to be in late August, and the second arrival date is going to be in early September. As you move through the application process, you're going to find out in typically around June that I will give that preference of letting participants choose which preference you want as far as arriving earlier or later, and then we'll do our best to match that. But that's something that would happen the further you went along in the application process. So for the main Teach in Spain program, we're now offering placements in the region of Andalusia in addition to the placements in Madrid for this program. Just keep in mind that the placements in Andalusia are going to be all over the region. So that will include limited placements in the major cities such as Granada, Cordoba, Sevilla. So keep that in mind. There are limited placements available in those bigger cities, where the majority of them are going to be in smaller, more rural towns. So just please keep that in mind when choosing your preferences in your application. Living in a smaller town is actually going to be a really great way to immerse yourself in the Spanish culture. So it's going to help you keep your spending low. It's going to really let you improve your Spanish a lot quicker. You're going to have less, you're going to be less likely to be maybe using your English with other foreigners. And so just think about the positives of that. And finally, the last of the 4 academic year programs is our Teach in Spain Basics program. This one is going to be our least supportive, and so it's going to have a few additional eligibility requirements compared to the other programs. So we're going to require that participants are at an upper intermediate level or advanced level of Spanish. And so this is going to be considered at least 4 semesters of university level Spanish. Secondly, participants must have spent some considerable time abroad in a Spanish-speaking country through living, working, or studying abroad. And then finally, because you're going to have less than 1 week before you start your teaching commitment, we require that participants have prior experience with teaching. This can be through formal classroom experience, tutoring, coaching, working as a camp counselor. Another thing to keep in mind is that arrival is going to be around late September for this program. And this program is also going to have, 2 nights of housing included. So it's definitely going to be best for people that are, more confident and comfortable moving to a foreign country. All right, so now that you have an idea of each of the programs and which one might be best for you, let's talk a little bit about your role, what your role as a language and culture assistant will be. So for the academic year programs, the 2- and 4-week immersion, the basics, and our main Teach in Spain program, you're going to be working as a language and culture assistant. We work with the educational governments of Madrid and Andalusia and their North American Language and Culture Assistant program to place teachers in primary and secondary public schools. While the duties for each language and culture assistant are going to vary for each school and their supporting teacher, most participants are going to make cultural presentations, create activities related to the lesson, maybe work with small groups of students to improve their conversational skills, and just help students study for their English language exams. If a participant is placed in a bilingual school, it's the same as with the volunteer situation. They may have the opportunity to help teach other subjects in English, such as history, science, art, or physical education. Participants are never left alone with entire classes, nor are they responsible for grading, discipline, or the independent supervision of students. Someone had asked as a language and cultural assistant, we're not actually teaching. So that's not quite along of it. So you're basically, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be assisting the teacher in the classroom. And so depending on your teacher, he or she may want you to have more responsibility. You might be, more responsible for planning more of the lesson. But typically it is going to be, creating activities or games that supplement the lesson. So you're still teaching, you're still in the classroom, but you're maybe not creating as much. If you were signed up for TEFL and would you be using TEFL, I would definitely think that it's going to be helpful to you because one, not only you may not be planning a whole 40-minute period, but you're going to be planning activities and pieces to that lesson that are going to have to blend in with everything else and match with, kind of coincide or complement with what your teacher is doing. And so this is going to help you to make sure that you are, prepared for everything that you're doing, that you're not just, Googling something quick and coming up with it. You're going to know a little bit more of the process and make sure that you're effectively teaching these students. Real quick too, someone had asked, how much knowledge do you need to know if you're going to work in a bilingual school? What if you're going there to teach English and you get put in a science classroom? So what happens there? That's definitely going to be really flexible. They're not going to ask you to go ahead and teach physics or anything like that. It's probably going to be today. Let's teach the parts of the body parts of a person, or maybe the part of a plant, or things like that. Things that you'll easily be able to know either firsthand on your own or just do a little bit of research quickly with that. It'll be more, the students you're going to be teaching are going to be, elementary and middle school students, so they're not going to be that advanced, especially if they're learning things in English. So I wouldn't stress too much about that. So your hours and compensation, because we have 2 different regions, there are going to vary a little bit. So in Madrid, language assistants are going to be expected to work 16 hours a week, and they're going to be paid €1,000 a month, €1,000 a month stipend from the Ministry of Education. However, if you look over here in, Andalusia on the right-hand side, you're going to see that language assistants are only expected to work 12 hours a week, but they are going to be paid €700 a month. The biggest reason with this is, Madrid is going to have a much higher cost of living versus Andalusia, where it is going to be much lower. When faced with the decision to choose between the 2 regions, I think many would probably just jump to Madrid at first. However, as I mentioned before, big city and more pay is also going to lead to a higher cost of living. On average, our participants in the region of Madrid are going to pay roughly €300 to €500 a month on housing, just for rent alone, whereas those in Andalusia are going to pay considerably lower. These rent costs are typically based on private rooms in furnished apartments. So you're typically going to have 2 to 5 roommates, but you'll have your own room, and then it'll be like a shared living quarters, kitchen, bathroom, and living room. things that are going to factor the cost of living are going to be, how many roommates you have, maybe the location within the city, outside of the city, things like that are going to weigh on those rent averages. Beyond the cost of living, each region is going to have its own draw. I think, some placements in Andalusia, they're definitely going to be in the larger cities, Granada, Sevilla, Cordoba, but you're also going to have a lot in those smaller, more rural towns, which I don't think should be seen as a downside of the location, but rather a perk. I mean, you're going to have the advantage of truly experiencing local Spanish culture, and you're also going to be more inclined to speak a little bit more Spanish on a daily basis. For both of the regions, it is important to know that while you're physically in the classroom for either 16 hours in Madrid or 12 hours in Andalusia, depending on that regional placement, you may be asked to join in on staff or professional development meetings that fall outside of your teaching hours. For example, in the early afternoon, there's usually a 45-minute break at schools called a recreo, or essentially it's like a recess for the students. But at the same time, the teachers are typically, they're taking this time to relax, maybe enjoy a cup of coffee, chatting with each other, and things like that. So this 45-minute recess or coffee break, it's not considered part of your teaching hours, but you're still at school. So just keep that in mind. The nice thing is, though, language and culture assistants are only going to work 4 days a week. And most of them, I would say 9 out of 10 times, you're going to have a Monday or a Friday off. All right, so before we, all right, so what is the next step? If you are interested in teaching abroad in Spain, you can start an application online. You can also find a link to our website. And you can see which applications we're currently accepting for the program. So all of our academic year programs, our Teach in Spain, our kind of main one, our basics, and our immersion, as well as our volunteer one, all have a May 1st deadline. And you can see we have Spain Volunteer for Spring 2019, and then our Teach in Spain professional programs. So those are some upcoming deadlines for you to listen to or for you to see. And before we talk about some frequently asked questions, I just want to mention real quick our TEFL certification course. TEFL stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language, and our course is a 150-hour certification that never expires, and it's going to prepare you to become a more competent and confident English teacher. The course it's almost entirely online. It does involve an in-classroom practicum, which you can fulfill in your local community or during your teaching commitment in Spain. All right. So those are the facts. I mean, we've talked about what it means to teach abroad, what your options are, how and when you should apply. I just want to finish with a couple more questions for you to consider. Starting with this. How would your life change if you taught abroad? We hear this question a lot, and we find that our participants come back with more confidence and real-world experience, both in the classroom and in other situations. Many took the advantage of the opportunity to learn Spanish. Whatever your long-term goals are, teaching abroad helps you gain skills. I know that my life has changed from teaching and living abroad. For example, I'm now, more confident in myself. I'm better able to lead a group of people. I'm able to think on my feet, take what comes at me in stride. And lastly, I feel more flexible and I can work in many different environments. So finally, I want you to think about, again, about that question from the beginning about what is important to you and your teach abroad experience. The most important words in this question are you and your. And this experience is going to be yours. It's going to be unique, different, and personal, and it's going to be what you make of it. All right, so let's go over some of our frequently asked questions. And then at this time, too, I'm going to start looking through the questions that you've asked throughout the presentation, and I'll go ahead and try to make sure I get those answered as well for you. So For the frequently asked questions, the first one is, I've opened an application, but I realize maybe a different program's better for me. Do I have to start a new application? No. You can just give us a call, send us an email, and then we can go ahead and switch the application over to you to the preferred program so that we know, so that you don't lose any work that you've already done on your application. We also recommend that you do not submit an application for more than one program. I would recommend, filling out for your favorite program, and then if for some reason you change your mind or feel that a different program would be better for you, we can just go ahead and switch that whole application over. The next question is, I haven't graduated yet. Can I still apply? Yes. If you plan on completing your degree in the spring or the summer, in your proof of graduation section, please just upload something from your university that confirms your expected date of graduation. Sometimes this is listed on your transcript. If not, usually a letter from your advisor or your registrar's office will suffice. Sometimes registrar's offices can be a little bit tricky, so we would recommend an advisor having written that for you. We do need a copy of that diploma before you can participate in the program, so just make sure that you can either try to expedite your diploma if you are graduating this summer or something like that, because it can take a little bit longer to receive, so we do need that before you officially depart. I have a question about Spanish in university. Maybe you grew up in a bilingual household or you've learned Spanish in some other informal setting. If this is the case, then we would need to see a letter from a Spanish professor, teacher, or tutor who has evaluated you and can vouch for your skill. They should include their qualifications and their estimation of your level of Spanish ability. And many participants ask to be placed at a specific school or in a specific area. There is a section in your application called Placement Preferences where you can enter, a specific area or the school that you want, and we'll definitely do our best to try. We just can't guarantee placement, according to participant preferences all the time. We do offer placements in the order that we receive commitment deposits, and so, the earlier that you've committed to the program, the more likely you are to receive your preferences. Do I need to be TEFL certified to participate in this program? No. It is an optional program for the Teach in Spain programs, so whether or not you want to take it is entirely up to you. However, I do strongly recommend being TEFL certified, as it's going to make you a more confident and prepared teacher. As mentioned earlier too, if you wanted to maybe teach in other countries, most countries are going to require a TEFL certification to even be considered for a position. I mean, it's a lifetime accreditation. It doesn't expire. There's really no harm in getting it. All right, before I open up to Q&A, I just want to mention real quick our social media pages. We are on Instagram. We're actually currently running a great grant giveaway right now. If you go sign on to our Instagram page, you can go ahead and find out more details about that to earn a $250 scholarship towards your program. We're also on Facebook, and then you can watch our YouTube videos as well, where we keep, copies of any previous webinars that we've had. We also have current participant webinars where we have current participants in Spain join us and tell us a little bit about their time and what it's like in Spain and going through the program. All right, so I am going to get through some of these questions that participants have asked. Feel free to add more questions, and I'll go ahead and try to answer them out loud. If it's maybe something more specific or more personal, you can also send me an email as well, or give me a call, and we can go ahead and help you out with that. Someone here is asking, is it possible to stay longer in Spain if after that full year? It is very easy to renew in Spain. As long as your school is happy with you, it is relatively easy to, basically there's just a few documents that you have to do. You'll go ahead and renew that residency card that you're going to have. But the process is relatively simple to stay. You can stay 2 years in the same region, up to a third, but as a third year participant, you would have to have an education degree or something like that to keep you, to let you stay there. Other than that, you would have the opportunity to maybe apply through a different region, but you could still stay in Spain, but you would be in a different region. Someone had mentioned, for the volunteer program that we had mentioned, how much savings should you bring for those 3 months? It's kind of going to depend on you. I mean, you're really not going to be spending a lot of money. You're going to have housing provided. You're going to have most of your meals provided. The biggest thing is going to be if you plan on doing some traveling. You're going to want to save, I would say probably maybe $500, maybe $1,000. It's just really just going to depend on where you're traveling to. I mean, tickets in Europe, throughout Europe, you could probably go to Paris, France for $50, on a plane. So it's going to be really cheap. It's just going to matter how far you want to go, what kind of lodging you want to be in, things like that. And then as a volunteer, you can also have that opportunity to go ahead and do some private tutoring to maybe supplement some income or to make a little bit of income so you don't have to bring so much with you that you've saved as well. Someone had asked, how much English does the staff at the school know? Most of the staff, so each participant is going to have each school will have a bilingual coordinator. And so there's anywhere from 1 to 5 other language and culture systems at your school. They may or may not be CIEE participants, but there are anywhere from 1 to 5. And so there's going to be that bilingual coordinator. They should know English rather well. And then most of your teachers, they're going to be English teachers, and so you're going to be supporting them in the classroom. So they should know English as well. It just depends on, maybe the location of the school, how well their level of English is. But you should be able to communicate with them just fine. Someone had mentioned, if you've already taken the TEFL course, but you want a little bit of a refresher, would you recommend doing the online class? There is, if you sign into our TEFL website, there is a 30 and 60 hour kind of like a supplemental course that I would recommend taking. If you already have TEFL, I don't know if I would recommend that 150, but I would definitely look into that 30 or 60 hour program or class, because that's going to help you with that refresher and kind of add on to your current certification. Someone had asked if there's going to be options to start the program, outside of this fall, possibly a time in January, the next semester. At the moment, we do not currently have any offerings for our academic year programs for the public schools. Our Teach in Spain professional program does offer a start date in January, and we are in the talks of possibly offering a January start date, but right now we only have our September, October, August, September, October start date that goes that academic year through the end of May or the end of June. Just a quick reminder, so all of the positions for the academic year programs in the public schools are going to be you are going to be a language and culture assistant. If you feel that you have a lot of experience teaching and maybe you want more responsibility, that's something that you can work with your teacher and maybe ask to have more. I'm sure they would love for you to help more, prepare more lessons, things like that. It's just going to vary on your school and your teacher and what you are comfortable with as well. Someone asked a little bit more about the housing hunt and finding an apartment in Madrid. I'm not going to lie, it's not an easy task. It can be daunting and it can be a little bit stressful, but it's definitely worth it in the end. I would say it takes solid 2 to 3 weeks of dedicated apartment hunting for you to be able to really find a place. Because there's going to be a lot of other participants arriving at the same time, a lot of other people, other teachers, and things like that. So you're going to be competing with everybody in that sense. But it's definitely possible. We will provide you, before you depart, before you arrive to Spain, we're going to have a pre-departure online course for you where we're going to give you a lot of resources during orientation as well. So you're going to know what to do. It just might take a little bit of time. If you are looking to, switch to a different program, just go ahead and let me know. If you're concerned maybe you don't meet the requirements, let me know first, because we can transfer you over to that program. But in the end, we would need to make sure that we've reviewed your application and you're actually accepted into it. So if you are worried maybe the requirements are a little bit higher and so you're not sure if you're eligible for it, just send me a quick email or email us at teachinspain@ciee.org, and we're more than happy to help you out and make sure we figure out which one's best for you. For the Spanish language skills, do we recommend a specific tutor? With tutoring, I would recommend just someone from your university, someone maybe if you don't have any, you haven't taken any Spanish classes recently, any Spanish professor or someone in the community that is like a Spanish professional that uses it every day at work or something like that. They can write it. It doesn't have to be anyone specific. Someone had asked about, house hunting, apartment hunting, and, essentially a contract or a lease, and can it be month to month? I would say most are going to make you, sign a contract, but there are maybe opportunities for a 10-month contract, but most, do end up having to sign a full contract, and then usually they just try to find someone to take over the lease for those last few months, which is typically pretty easy over the summer because there's a lot of people that choose to stay there for the entire year. Maybe they want to renew their time, they want to renew for another year, and so they stay, and so there'll be lots of opportunities to find people to take that over. Someone had asked if there was a possibility to teach adults in the volunteer program. Unfortunately, for all of those Teach in Spain programs, the academic year ones of the public schools are all going to be primary and secondary age students. So, elementary, middle school age. Unfortunately, there are none for adults, but in your free time or even private tutoring, you could definitely find some opportunities to tutor adults. I have a question about which, with the Madrid and Andalusia regions and how that works. So the 2 and 4 week immersion program, so essentially each year we send about 600 participants to Madrid. And so there are a lot of placements. There's a lot of placements there. And so if you indicate Madrid in your application, you are very likely to get Madrid. And the difficult one is going to be Andalusia, where that one is a little bit more limited. And so if you were a participant in the regular or basics program and you indicated that you preferred Andalusia as your placement, there is a minor chance, a very small chance that you wouldn't be able to receive that placement and you might be placed in Madrid, which is indicated in your application. But if you indicated Madrid first as your first choice, there's very, very rare, very little reason why you wouldn't receive that request. So the visa for the Teach in Spain, the academic year programs, you would get a visa. It is going to be considered a language and culture assistant visa, which is a type of student visa, and it's through the Ministry of Education. It's what they require. You are legally able to work 20 hours a week, and so you're only teaching either 12 or 16, so you can supplement your income with additional hours. So when I mentioned, where do you stay before you get an apartment? Depending on the program that you're assigned or that you're applying, that you're participating in, you're going to have, those either if you're in the regular program, you're going to have 4 days of orientation with 5 additional nights of housing. And so that's 9 nights total. If you still haven't found a place within that time frame, then the responsibility is going to be on you, which means that, maybe you'd want to prepare an Airbnb or a hostel or something like that to supplement, to kind of give you a little bit more time before you actually find housing. This way you're not panicked after those days of orientation if you have nothing set up yet. So I would definitely recommend arranging for some temporary housing. Someone is wondering, when typically does the 2-week immersion start? So we announce official dates in May once we officially receive our placements. But for the 2-week immersion, you can expect to arrive like mid-August. I'm going to say around the 3rd-ish week, around August 20th or so, is going to be roughly what the date would be for arrival. Vacation. So a lot of, there are 2 big holidays that you're going to have a lot of days off. The first one is going to be over Christmas time. Typically over Christmas and New Year's is about a week and a half to 2 weeks off that participants are going to get. And then the second big break is going to be over Holy Week or Semana Santa, which is the week before Easter. And typically that is about 7 to 10 days as well. On top of that, you're going to get all national holidays. Essentially any day the students have off, you have off as well. So when I asked, how long does it typically take for someone to find an apartment? If you were in any of the immersion classes, I would say you're going to have plenty of time because you're going to have those 4 days of orientation plus 4 or 2 weeks of immersion. And so you're going to have plenty of time to find housing. it takes probably a dedicated 2 to 3 weeks to find it. You can start looking before you leave for Spain. I would never book anything or agree to anything, but you can definitely, start looking at places, maybe arranging for some meetings when you arrive to be able to look at apartments, get a head start, or to see what's available, kind of hone in on your expectations as far as what you want to get, what your price range is, things like that. But we typically, recommend you start once you arrive in Spain, and then from then on, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks. All right. If you have more questions, I'm going to leave it open for a couple more minutes here. Feel free to ask, input any more questions into the questions box. As I mentioned, you can go ahead and give me a call anytime. You can email us at teachinspain@ciee.org. Myself and my colleague Susanna are happy to answer any questions that you may have about the program. Sometimes things come up after and you oh, darn, I wish I would have asked that. You can go ahead and reach out after that as well. This webinar will be recorded or is recorded, so I will go ahead and email everyone a recording or a link to the recording in case anybody wants to go back and listen to some of the information again. So when I'm asking about, how can you find roommates? Is it typical for apartments to have furnishings? I would say, so one of the biggest ways to find housing are going to be through social media platforms such as Facebook. And then also one of the websites is Idealista, so IDEALISTA.com, which is essentially like a Hotpads version that we have, here in the U.S. So that's their version there in Spain. And so basically, someone in an apartment would post that their room is available. And so that's why, in that way, you're going to either find, maybe Spanish roommates, maybe you'll hit it off with someone really well during orientation, maybe you'll want to do some house hunting together and things like that. But it is going to be relatively easy to find apartments. It's just finding the one that's going to be best for you. Someone had asked if we had placements in Toledo. We do for our volunteer program. So our volunteer program is in the regions of Castilla y León and Castilla-La Mancha. So for Toledo, that would be in the region of Castilla-La Mancha. So for volunteer only, however, it would not be eligible for our academic year programs. And someone wants to know, how much interaction do you have the opportunity to meet your other teachers before you arrive to Spain? So before you arrive, we will sign everyone up for a pre-departure online course, which is going to be, everybody in the basics program will be in this course together. Everybody in the Immersion program will be in this course together, so it's going to be a great way for you guys to get to talk and get to know each other a little bit. We're also going to have a Facebook group that we'll create for each of those programs as well, so everyone can get to meet each other that way. And then, of course, during orientation, you're going to have that opportunity to chat and get to know people as well. Someone asked about it being safe. I think it is extremely safe. I mean, Madrid is a large city. The worst thing you're really going to have to worry about are pickpockets. There are pickpockets everywhere, and it's a big European city. So that's going to be your biggest thing. But other than that, I mean, you're going to be fine. Use common sense. Don't necessarily walk home at night or under the influence or anything like that alone. But other than that, it is going to be a safe place to be. So our staff in Spain, once you arrive for orientation, you will meet our staff in Spain. While they can't directly be the ones to help you specifically with finding housing, there are going to be we're going to give you all the resources to find that. As I mentioned, we send about 600 participants to Spain each year, and so it's a lot, for our, 2 coordinators in Spain to help each person, look at apartments and, go through walkthroughs and things like that. But we're definitely going to give you the resources, and if you have questions, you're always more than welcome to ask myself and our staff in Spain, and we're going to do our best to help you. Do I have any more questions about the program, about the role as a language and culture assistant? Someone wanted to know, what should we expect for the 4-week homestay? What is the family usually like? So that's going to vary. In your application, you would indicate, would you prefer to be with a host family, someone with like a husband and wife and children, maybe just a couple, and maybe you don't want to be in a homestay with children, or maybe you just want to be with like a senora, just like a single woman or something like that. So there's going to be all those different options that you're going to be able to input in your preferences, and then we'll try to match things like that. So it can be a variety of different homestay situations, but you will most likely be with another participant from CIEE. So it'll be you and one other participant, which is going to be usually the same participant that you're rooming with during orientation at the hotel. Your homestay may have other students that or teachers that aren't through CIEE. It just depends on the family that you have, but we have worked with the same program for many years, and so they are definitely reputable resources and people that we work with. All right. I want to thank everybody for joining the webinar today and learning a little bit more about the Teach in Spain program. I'm so glad that everyone decided to listen in. If there are any more questions, you go ahead and ask them. Otherwise, just go ahead and send me an email anytime, and I'm more than happy to answer those things for you. So I do appreciate you for checking in today and listening. It was a little bit long, but thank you.